Mr. Jam.
That's awesome. Wear it tomorrow? Oh, yeah, I'm never going to take this off. I'm going to sleep in this. This is great. Well, I need a few more layers today. This is ridiculous. I don't know, Ray. It seemed like, I know you said onions, but it seemed like you were getting close to the F word. I mean, there were some feelings going on. I don't know. Just be careful. And I just met Tom earlier. Tom, thanks so much for sharing your story. He's a sax player and a guitarist and a worship leader and a funny guy, and if I had a beard and I was better looking, people would mix me up for being here. Thanks for sharing your story this morning. I need to begin with an apology because I think I am to blame for this weather. Now,
I'm sure you are.
Yeah. See, let me tell you, here's what I did. So for those of you that ever attend Willow Creek, I sometimes lead the music in our services, and sometimes when we invite people to be seated, we invite them to greet each other. And do you remember like 3 Saturdays ago, it was like really nice? And I thought like spring was finally here, and just on a whim, I decided to say, hey, why don't you turn to the person around you and just let them know if you think it's going to snow again in April. The next Sunday, it snowed. So I got a lot of, there's like info@willowcreek.org that you can send emails into. I feel like I got about 100 emails saying, make sure Matt never does anything like that again. Clearly I'm a slow learner because this past Wednesday I was leading worship for our staff. And I had no idea what the forecast was, but just as a joke in our Wednesday morning staff prayer and worship time, I just said, hey, do you guys think that it's going to snow again in April? Now I've gotten so many emails from fellow staff members, so I'm really sorry that I ruined the biker's blessing. It's totally my fault, but I think this has been great so far this morning. Thanks for coming out. It's really important that you did come out because this year marks a very special year in motorcycle riding. Did you know that this year marks the 125th anniversary of the motorcycle? Did you know that? Yep, 125 years ago, this year, the first ever motorcycle, two-wheel, engine-driven vehicle called a motorcycle started. So, is there anyone in here 125 years old? Or, yeah, we got a couple still riding the first ever. So you're probably wondering, since I know so much about motorcycles, what is my motorcycle riding experience? Well, you're wondering that? Zero. Well, I technically have never ridden a motorcycle, but one time I rode a dirt bike. Does that count? It does count? Well, you haven't heard the story yet, so maybe it won't count after you hear this. So I was with my friends and we were out in the country. First time I had ever ridden a dirt bike. I got on the bike and I just started riding on this little pathway and rode for about 10 minutes or so, and the pathway just kept getting narrower and narrower and narrower, and then I was like, you know what, I better turn around before he comes looking for me. And I went to turn around, but the pathway was so narrow that I couldn't turn the bike around. So I tried to like pick it up and I couldn't do it, and I just had to wait there about 20 minutes for someone to come and get me and then turn the dirt bike around. But I'm sure that would never happen now that I have this vest. So as long as I wear this, I think I'll be totally fine. But truly is a pleasure to be here with you guys and to say a blessing over you. And just, I want to share one quick thought with you before I give you the blessing and dismiss you for some more coffee and fellowship and whatnot. But there is a difference between luck and between a blessing. And now luck is simply success or failure that's brought on by total chance. And some people go through life only believing in luck, that things happen, there's success or failure, and the only thing going on is total chance. But there are other people, and I would count myself and probably many of us, who would consider blessing to be the way that we view things in life. Blessing is an act of kindness beyond what is due or what is usual. And we oftentimes ask for a blessing from God, and God's nature is one of loving kindness, that whenever he has an opportunity to bestow loving kindness, and we heard that through Tom's story quite a bit, at so many turns in his story, that God gives his blessing, his loving kindness. It might not seem like a blessing at the time, but when we look back in the rearview mirror, we can see that it is a blessing. But when we read the Bible, there are really two things that I think we're responsible for when we receive a blessing. We read in James chapter 1 that James says that every good and perfect gift comes from above. So when we receive a blessing from God, our responsibility is to give thanks and to have gratitude. And the Bible also says, so that's the first thing, when we receive a blessing, we ought to give thanks and we ought to be people that are grateful. And the second thing the Bible tells us is in Genesis chapter 12, when God is speaking to Abraham, he tells Abraham that you are going to be blessed, but you are going to be blessed to bless others. So when we receive a blessing, we shouldn't hold on to it with hands like this. We should hold on to it with open hands. And I've honestly even seen this in the limited access that I've had to some of my friends who are in this community. You guys are blessed to be a blessing. That's exactly what happens with the HighRoad riders. And so as we receive God's blessing, I want to encourage us to give thanks and to also realize that we are blessed to be a blessing. So what I thought I would do is maybe give us just a moment to be grateful. I grew up in the church, and in the church I grew up in, when we would receive the offering, which we're not going to take an offering or anything like that, but we would always hear the song, the organist would play the song, the doxology. And so I brought my sax, and I thought that I would maybe just take 30 seconds or so and play the doxology, and I'll give you a chance to just take a quick inventory of your life. What are some of the God sightings you've had in your life? What are some things that you are grateful for? Some blessings that you've seen in your life that you can give thanks. And maybe you're just visiting with the HighRoad riders and not even sure if you believe anything about God, but I can tell you God believes something about you, and that there's probably some blessings in your life. And if you just want to take inventory and say, I'm not sure where these blessings came from, but I can see that I have been the recipient of some blessings. And then we'll stand together after that, and I will say the blessing over you. But take just a moment as I play this song, take inventory of your life, and maybe give thanks to God for some of the blessings in your life. This comes from an old Celtic prayer. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields until we meet again. May God hold you in the palm of his hand. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.